The NBA regular season only has a few weeks left. We are very close to the postseason. However, that's not stopping Leon Rose and the Knicks from making additional roster moves to help solidify this team until we get to the postseason. And these roster moves also help tell us how the New York Knicks are responding to some of these injuries. We're going to break down exactly who the New York Knicks signed for the rest of the season, what this means for New York moving forward, and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. The Knicks and Leon Rose make additional moves to the roster for the rest of the season. Now, with the New York Knicks dealing with all of these injuries to their key players, and given the latest injury updates for these key players, Julius Randle, for instance, still hasn't moved on to full contact yet. He's a couple of weeks away. OG Anunoby, even though he's shooting, which is a positive sign, he still has elbow irritation, so he's not close to returning. Mitchell Robinson is the closest Knick to returning, but he's not going to return anytime soon because Tom Thibodeau states he still needs to go through a few more reps of contact in practice. So given all of these updates, it's no surprise that the Knicks and Leon Rose would make the following signings for the rest of the season. Now, some of these names you might remember. We did a video about these guys a few weeks ago because these were the guys that were signed by the Knicks to 10-day contracts. And now the Knicks have gone ahead and signed these guys for the rest of the season. The Knicks have signed Mkae Diakite and Daquan Jefferies for the rest of the season. According to Fred Katz, Mkae Diakite's contract with the Knicks is through 2025. It's also a salary that is not guaranteed in 2024-2025. As for Daquan Jefferies, according to Katz, his contract runs through the end of this season with a team option for 2024-2025. Now, initially, when these guys were signed, as I mentioned, they were signed to 10-day contracts. Now, why did the Knicks do that? Why did Leon Rose and the Knicks sign these guys initially to 10-day contracts and not sign them outright for the rest of the season at that point in time? The main reason they did that was time. They wanted to give the rest of their injured players additional time to rest, recover, and see where they were as a team at that point in time. You also need bodies for practice. Let's not forget, if you have injured players, they're obviously not going to be practicing with the full roster, doing what the full roster is going to do, because some players have not been cleared for full contact yet. Julius Randle, for instance, has not been cleared for full contact, so he can't do what the rest of the team is doing. So that means you need another body in there that can replace Randle to help you play those games in practice, to help your team get better and build up that chemistry. That's exactly what Tom Thibodeau and Leon Rose is doing here by signing these players. But at the time when the New York Knicks gave these contracts to these players, they had thought that at this point in time, they might have Randle back, OG would be himself again, no issues, and likely the only person they would be waiting on is Mitchell Robinson. If that was the case, I doubt I would be even having a video to discuss today about the New York Knicks making these moves, because the only reason the Knicks made these moves was in response to the injury updates. You don't make these moves for the rest of the season unless you have to. The Knicks felt that they have to, given the updates with Randle and OG Anunoby, because Mitchell Robinson's close. So I don't think this is a Mitchell Robinson thing, even though he still has to take contact more times in practice before Tom Thibodeau and the medical staff feel comfortable in clearing him and having him return to the court for the Knicks. But still, that's not anything to worry about for Mitchell Robinson. He's going to clear that very soon and be back with the New York Knicks in no time. OG Anunoby, the good thing about him is he is shooting right now. That's the positive thing coming out of yesterday's shoot-around. That's the best thing to hear. The unfortunate part is the elbow is still inflamed. We're still waiting for that elbow to calm down. And then once it goes down, he's likely going to have to take contact, go through practice, and make sure it doesn't get inflamed again. And then once that happens, the medical staff will clear him, and then he'll come back. That sounds like to me that OG Anunoby is likely going to miss the next couple of games, if not the next week of play. If that's the case, and then you have Julius Randle, who still has not moved on to full contact yet, so he's actually weeks away, the Knicks are forced to make a move. You have to make a move because you need certain players on your roster to fulfill the NBA requirement of enough active players on your team. That's the first reason you make the move. But again, you have to respond to these injuries. You need bodies in practice as well, too. You need to make sure the rest of your team is still building chemistry together and getting better as you're heading into the postseason. But that's the tricky part here. And that's the main concern for me now. Given the fact that the New York Knicks responded to these injuries by signing these players, It likely means that Julius Randle is not returning till the postseason. It likely means that OG Anunoby could potentially, listen to what I'm saying here, could potentially be held out until the postseason because they don't want to risk that elbow getting inflamed. And even if it goes down, they're likely going to wait a few days with OG Anunoby to see if anything else happens with that elbow or it's fine. And then after that, maybe he goes into practice, he goes through the motions, and he still has to take time to see how the elbow responds. So it sounds like with all of these updates that Julius Randle and OG Anunoby potentially could make their return for the New York Knicks in the postseason. Mitchell Robinson absolutely is coming back before the postseason. He's likely going to come back for the last few games of the regular season. OG Anunoby could do that, but will the Knicks risk it? Will the Knicks take the chance with OG Anunoby and that injury and have him go through the last few games with this Knicks team to try to build up that chemistry? It's a possibility, but it's also a possibility they hold him out. Now, you might be watching this video and saying, well, Troy, this doesn't matter. These guys are not really key guys. They're not really key players. They're not going to see a lot of time on the court. So what's the point in talking about them? The reason it's good to talk about them is it speaks to the front office and them responding to a situation that they know they need to respond to. If you know the Knicks are injured, you're going to need players for practice, and you feel that the players, your key players, are not going to return when you expect them to, you have to respond in any single way possible. Leon Rose in the front office could have chosen to do nothing. They could have chosen not to respond to the situation. But given the fact that they have been on point all season long, especially Leon Rose, I expected them to make a move and respond to these injuries. And lo and behold, they did exactly that. I love the signings as well, too. These guys have been good G League players as well. They have experience playing with the New York Knicks. And here's another thing to think about. Ever since we've given these guys 10-day contracts, they've traveled with the team, they played with the team, they practiced with the team. So they definitely built up some type of rapport. And I think that goes a long way to why they were signed for the rest of the season. And if they are helping in practice in some type of way, I'm happy with that. I'm okay with the signings. I trust Leon. I trust this front office. And I think this is the first time as a Knicks fan I have fully supported a front office so much as I've done this season. Leon Rose has made me do it, though, because he's made moves that I've wanted to see, and those moves has actually panned out because the Knicks are finally in a place I've always wanted to see them be, in contention. And we may not be close right now because we're not healthy, but as we get healthy, we get more dangerous. And a dangerous Knicks team is a legit contender in the NBA. Mark my words on that. But what about you guys? What do you think about the New York Knicks signing Mkae Diakite and Daquan Jefferies for the New York Knicks roster for the rest of this season? Let me know in the comments below, guys. And also let me know how you feel about Leon Rose in the front office responding to these injuries by signing these players. Let me know in the comments below because honestly, guys, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.